Hello, my name is Gary, and I was raised in the Western United States, so I'm a native English speaker. I hope that you will enjoy this YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us.
The Tale of Jemima Puddle-Duck by Beatrix Potter, 1866 to 1943. What a funny sight it is to see a bunch of ducklings following a hen. Now listen to the story of Jemima Puddle-Duck, who was upset because the farmer's wife wouldn't let her hatch her own eggs. Jemima's sister-in-law, Mrs. Rebecca Puddle-Duck, was more than happy to let someone else do the hatching. I don't have the patience to sit on a nest for 28 days, and neither do you, Jemima. You'd let the eggs get cold, you know you would. I want to hatch my own eggs. I'll do it all by myself, quacked Jemima Puddle-Duck. She tried to hide her eggs, but they were always found and taken away. Jemima Puddle-Duck became very frustrated. She decided to build a nest far away from the farm. On a beautiful spring afternoon, she set off along the cart road that goes over the hill. She was wearing a shawl and a sun hat. When she reached the top of the hill, she saw a forest in the distance. She thought it looked a safe, quiet place. Jemima Puddle-Duck wasn't very good at flying. She ran a short distance down the hill, flapping her shawl, and then jumped into the air. Once she got a good start, she flew gracefully. She glided over the treetops until she spotted an open area in the middle of the forest, where the trees and underbrush have been cleared. Jemima landed rather awkwardly and started waddling around, looking for a dry and convenient spot to nest. She was particularly interested in a tree stump among some tall foxgloves. But when she settled on the stump, she was surprised to find a well-dressed gentleman sitting there, reading the newspaper. He had black pointed ears and sandy-coloured whiskers. "Quack," Jemima Puddle said, tilting her head and adjusting her hat. "Quack." The gentleman looked up from his newspaper and curiously eyed Jemima. "Madam, are you lost?" he asked. He had a long bushy tail, which he was sitting on because the ground was a little damp. Jemima thought he was very polite and good-looking. She explained that she wasn't lost, just searching for a dry and convenient place to build her nest. "Oh, really? Is that so?" said the gentleman with sandy whiskers, giving Jemima a curious glance. He folded his newspaper and tucked it into his coat pocket. Jemima complained about the bothersome hen. "Really? How fascinating. I'd love to have come across that bird. I'll teach it to mind its own business. As for a nest, that's no problem at all. I've got a sack full of feathers in my shed. No, my dear lady, you won't be in anyone's way. You can stay there as long as you'd like," said the gentleman with the long bushy tail. He led her to a rather secluded, gloomy-looking house nestled amongst the foxgloves. The house was made of sticks and turf, with two broken buckets stacked on top of each other, acting as a chimney. "This is my summer home. You wouldn't find my winter place, my underground house, as comfortable," said the kind gentleman. There was a shabby shed behind the house, built from old soap boxes. The gentleman opened the door and let Jemima in. The shed was nearly packed with feathers. It was almost overwhelming, but it was soft and cosy. Jemima Puddle-Duck was quite surprised to see so many feathers. Still, it was very comfortable, and she had no trouble at all making a nest. When she came out, the gentleman with sandy whiskers was sitting on a log, reading a newspaper, or at least it was open in front of him, but he was peeking over the top. He was so polite that he seemed almost reluctant to let Jemima go home for the night. He promised to take care of her nest until she returned the next day. He mentioned how much he loved eggs and ducklings, and said he'd be proud to see a nice, full nest in his shed. Jemima Puddle-Duck visited every afternoon and laid 9 eggs in the nest. They were a greenish white and quite large. The gentleman with the sandy whiskers admired them a lot. He would turn them over and count them whenever Jemima wasn't around. Finally, Jemima told him she plans to start sitting on the eggs the next day. "I'll bring a bag of corn with me, so I won't have to leave the nest until the eggs hatch. They might catch cold," said the diligent Jemima. "Please don't worry about bringing a bag of corn. I'll provide oats for you. But before you start your nesting, I'd like to treat you. Let's have a dinner party, just the two of us." Could you bring some herbs from the farm garden to make a savoury omelette? Sage, thyme, mint, 2 onions and some parsley would be perfect. I'll supply the lard for the omelette, said the friendly gentleman with sandy whiskers. Jemima Puddle-Duck was quite naive. She didn't even become suspicious when she heard about sage and onions. She wandered around the farm garden munching on bits of various herbs used for stuffing roast duck. She waddled into the kitchen and took 2 onions from a basket. The collie dog Kep saw her and asked, "What are you doing with those onions? Where do you go every afternoon, Jemima Puddle-Duck?" Jemima was a bit intimidated by the collie, so she told him everything. Kep listened with his head tilted to one side and grinned when she mentioned the polite gentleman with sandy whiskers. He asked several questions about the woods and the exact location of the house and shed. Then he left and trotted down the village, heading to find 2 foxhound puppies who were out for a walk with the butcher. On a sunny afternoon, Jemima Puddle-Duck travelled up the cart road for the last time. She was carrying a bag full of herbs and 2 onions. She flew over the woods and landed right in front of the house of the gentleman with the bushy tail. He was sitting on a log, sniffing the air and glancing nervously around the woods. When Jemima landed, he practically jumped. "Go inside and check on your eggs as soon as you can. Hand me the herbs for the omelette. Hurry up." His tone was unusually sharp. Jemima Puddle-Duck was taken aback and felt uneasy. While she was inside, she heard footsteps pattering around the back of the shed. Someone with a black nose sniffed at the bottom of the door and then locked it. Jemima became very alarmed. Moments later, there were terrible noises: barking, baying, growling, howling, squealing and groaning. After that, the gentleman with the sandy whiskers was never seen again. Eventually, Kep came and opened the shed door, letting Jemima Puddle-Duck out. Jemima Puddle-Duck was escorted home in tears, carrying the eggs. She was allowed to keep them herself, but only 4 of the eggs hatched. Jemima Puddle-Duck said it was due to her nerves, but she admitted she had always been a poor sitter.